They called it a superstition, a relic of primitive thinking, a symbol without substance. For centuries, the third eye was spoken of in whispers by mystics and dismissed outright by the modern world. But as decades passed and science began to peer deeper into the human brain, something unexpected happened. Some of the oldest stories, the so-called myths, began to align with measurable biological truths. What was once seen as metaphor is now being revisited through the lens of neuroscience, quantum theory, and consciousness studies. And what researchers are finding is that these ancient ideas may have been pointing to something very real all along. The third eye is often linked to the pineal gland, a small organ about the size of a grain of rice, hidden in the center of the brain. Ancient cultures described it as a gateway to higher awareness, a tool for perceiving realities beyond the five senses. In Hinduism, it is depicted as a glowing point of light between the eyebrows. In ancient Egypt, the Eye of Horus symbol closely mirrors the anatomical structure of the human brain and the pineal region. For centuries, these ideas were dismissed as spiritual poetry. But modern imaging and physiological studies are revealing functions that strangely echo these mystical descriptions. One of the myths that turned out to have a surprising basis, in fact, is the idea that the third eye is sensitive to light. Mystics have long said it could see in ways the physical eyes cannot. Today we know that the pineal gland contains photoreceptor cells similar to those in the retina. While it does not form images the way your eyes do, it does respond to changes in light and darkness, regulating the release of melatonin and influencing your circadian rhythms. This is not metaphor. This is measurable biology showing that deep inside the brain there is indeed a light-sensitive organ. Another long-held belief was that the third eye is connected to altered states of consciousness. Ancient yogis described using meditation to open the third eye and enter states of expanded awareness. Today, brainwave research shows that meditation can shift neural activity into alpha, theta, and even gamma frequencies, all of which are associated with heightened creativity, intuition, and sometimes vivid internal imagery. Some neuroscientists believe the pineal gland may play a role in this process by releasing or regulating compounds that influence perception and mood. Whether through meditation, chanting, or rhythmic breathing, these practices appear to calm certain brain regions while stimulating others, producing a measurable change in consciousness. A third myth is that the third eye serves as a bridge between the physical and spiritual realms. Ancient texts spoke of it as the seat of the soul, or the organ through which divine visions were received. While science cannot yet prove or disprove a spiritual dimension, there is evidence that the pineal gland can influence the content and clarity of dreams, as well as experiences sometimes described as mystical or transcendent. The idea that a single point in the brain could act as a doorway between different states of being no longer seems as far-fetched when you consider its role in dream regulation, internal imagery, and possibly even near-death experiences. Another widely told story is that the third eye can be awakened or activated and that doing so enhances intuition. Skeptics have often dismissed this as pure fantasy, but modern psychology recognizes that intuition is a real cognitive process, one in which the brain rapidly synthesizes information from multiple sources without conscious reasoning. Practices such as mindfulness and focused visualization, both historically associated with third eye activation, have been shown to increase activity in brain regions linked to pattern recognition and decision-making. This suggests that awakening the third eye could simply mean tuning the mind to pick up on subtle signals it usually ignores. There is also the myth that certain frequencies or vibrations can stimulate the third eye. Ancient cultures used chants, bells, and even specific tones to awaken inner sight. Today, sound therapy and binaural beats have been studied for their effects on brainwave patterns and relaxation responses. While more research is needed, there is growing interest in the possibility that sound can influence mental states in ways that mirror the experiences described in mystical traditions. This is where ancient practice and modern experimentation begin to overlap in striking ways. The symbolism surrounding the third eye is another point where myth and fact meet. For example, the pinecone shape often used in sacred architecture is an almost perfect match for the appearance of the pineal gland. From the sculptures of ancient Assyria to the staff of the Pope in Vatican City, pinecone imagery appears as a marker of hidden wisdom. Whether this was coincidence or a deliberate reference to the pineal gland's function is unknown, but the repetition of the symbol across so many cultures suggests a shared understanding that transcended geography. Even the idea that the third eye can be blocked or calcified has roots in both tradition and science. Ancient texts warned of impurities clouding the inner vision. Today, we know that the pineal gland can develop calcium deposits, sometimes called calcification, which may impact its function. Although calcification is common with age, some researchers speculate that environmental factors like fluoride exposure and artificial lighting could accelerate the process. While more studies are needed to confirm the exact impact on consciousness, the fact that modern science even acknowledges structural changes in this tiny gland shows a convergence with ancient warnings about keeping it clear. In practical terms, many of these myths carry advice that aligns with modern health recommendations. For instance, ancient instructions to meditate daily, avoid certain toxins, spend time in natural sunlight, and guard one's mental purity all have parallels in contemporary wellness research. Sunlight exposure supports natural melatonin cycles. Meditation improves mental clarity and emotional stability. Avoiding excessive artificial light at night preserves healthy circadian rhythms. What was once cloaked in mystical language now appears as a blueprint for maintaining optimal brain function. So why do these myths matter? Because they reveal that knowledge of the third eye was not just the property of one culture or time period. It was a recurring theme across civilizations that had no direct contact with each other. From the temples of India to the mystery schools of Egypt, from the shamanic traditions of the Americas to the philosophies of Greece, the third eye was revered as a central key to human potential. When so many unrelated traditions preserve the same idea, it becomes harder to dismiss it as coincidence. It is also worth noting that the resurgence of interest in the third eye is not coming only from spiritual seekers. Fields such as neurotheology, which studies the brain's role in religious and mystical experiences, are beginning to explore the pineal gland in new ways. Even NASA has taken interest in understanding how human physiology, including the pineal gland, responds to altered light cycles in space. As exploration extends beyond Earth, the need to understand how our internal clocks and consciousness adapt becomes increasingly relevant. Of course, not all myths are literally true in the way they were originally told. The third eye does not grant supernatural X-ray vision, nor can it be opened like a physical eyelid. But the essence of these myths, that there exists within us a latent faculty for deeper perception, finds surprising support in modern evidence. The blending of ancient symbolic language with contemporary research creates a richer, more nuanced picture of what the third eye might actually represent. Perhaps the greatest truth behind these myths is the reminder that human perception is not fixed. It can be trained, expanded, and refined. The third eye, whether viewed as a mystical organ or a biological structure, stands as a metaphor for this potential. To explore it is to step beyond the limits of ordinary awareness and to engage with reality on a more profound level. And so, what began as stories told under temple roofs and around sacred fires may find their next chapter in the laboratories and meditation halls of our time. The third eye myths that turn out to be true invite us to reconsider not only what we see, but how we see. To look inward with the same curiosity we direct toward the outer world. And if these ancient teachers were right, that simple shift in perception may change everything.